So this is an extension of my last video where I was talking about how it's very common to look for symbols in dreams. Like, we know, we've heard of that. We hear people say that it represents different things coming from our subconscious, like different messages. But something I'm starting to realize is that the same symbols, the same way that we interpret them in dreams, can be interpreted in real life. And I talked about in the last video how situations or recurring themes can often be something that you interpret. But another thing that I really want to discuss today is symbols, and specifically symbols of different animals. So I explained how, in a last video, I explained how I saw an owl in a dream, and I looked up what that meant the next morning and found out that seeing an owl in a dream can signify a death in a family to come. The day that I woke up to news that my grandmother's sister had passed away. So it's like my subconscious knew before my conscious self did. I'm finding that the more I pay attention to the animals that come around me in my real, like, waking life or walking life, I don't know, I think it's waking life, the more I pay attention to those animals as well, I see that they also carry symbols. They also carry symbols that are relevant to what I'm going through in those moments. I'll give you 4 examples to kind of make you understand how legitimate and accurate this is. So, firstly, the way to look out for these symbols, right? I especially like to look for birds. Birds always come to me with signs and symbols, like, very frequently. But like anytime I'm driving and a bird just like flies right in front of my window, especially if it's like a bird that you actually recognize, like a falcon or a crow or like anything like that, like where you can tell like what type of bird it is, that's something you should look up. That's something you should look up, and you should look up the symbolism behind it, because it's likely that there's a message behind that. And a lot of the times the messages that we get are more for clarity, that I found. Like, it's more for like clarifying things that are going on in your life that you already know are going on, which is really interesting. It's like, we already know. There's already a piece of us that knows, like, but it's just like a reminder, a clarification on those things. Another way to see something is just like if you see an abundance of a certain animal that you don't usually often see that many of. And that's the story I'll start out with. When my grandmother passed away, unfortunately, my grandparents weren't doing very well financially, and they were in a lot of debt. And so after she passed away, my grandfather had to sell the house. And that was like my childhood home, because my parents didn't have a ton of money, but my grandparents always took care of us on both sides. Like, my mom's parents were doctors, and my dad's parents, they used to own a furniture company a long time ago, but he was a furniture rep for like high-end furniture. And then unfortunately, after the 2008 recession, nobody's buying high-end furniture the way that they were before. So it was tough. There was a really hard time. It was a really hard time for my family, and I lived there my whole life, though. I mean, like, even before even that happened, like, again, my dad and my mom didn't have a ton of money, so I lived at my grandparents' house like a lot of my life, and it was my childhood home. Like, it was really, really hard to let go of. My grandmother passed away when I was like 22, and so we had to leave the house that was like everything to me, like all of my memories and everything like that. So anyway, fast forward, my grandmother passed away, and one day I was just struggling, and I wanted to feel her presence. I wanted to feel something. And so I decided to drive up by their old house. Now, mind you, I was there for like 22 years of my life. And so I knew, what was normal and what was not for animals that were around there. But I drove up there one night, and in the middle of the night, I promise you, I saw like 50 deer as I was driving around their neighborhood. 50. It was insane. I've never seen that many deer. Like, there are deer up there because it is like right on the edge of the mountain, and we do see deer, but I've never seen more than like 6. But it was like the entire neighborhood was full of deer. Now, that stood out to me. So I looked up like what that kind of could maybe symbolize or mean, and it talked about peacefulness and tranquility and comforting. Like that's what deer symbolizes, like a sense of peacefulness and calmness and a comforting energy. Oh, interestingly enough, I just saw 2 birds, but I'm not sure what they were because I wasn't paying attention. They just flew in front of me. But a comforting type of feeling, which is crazy because that's exactly what I needed in that time. It was a perfect symbol for a perfect moment. It's getting dark, so I'm gonna have to turn this on. It was a perfect symbol for a perfect moment. But then another thing that happened to me recently is I was driving home from dropping off some business cards that I ordered, that someone else ordered from me, and I had designed them and printed them and everything, right? And like I finally had them delivered to me so that I could get them delivered to her. But that day I had the flu, and I was like, gosh, this is like so much. Like I have so much going on. Like I was just feeling really overwhelmed, and but I still wanted to like get her the cards because she had an event she was going to like the next day. So I ended up driving. It was a 45-minute drive, and it was just super, super tough. But as I'm driving away and I finally feel like relief, I'm like, oh, I just did something really tough. It was hard, but things are gonna be okay. Like I figured it out. It's done. I'm driving home. It's great. A falcon flies in front of my car. I look up what falcons mean, and it meant overcoming challenges. It meant like, you'll have to look at exactly what it was, but it was like overcoming something that was very difficult for you, or like kind of like success coming your way, and to really keep your head up and keep going. And that was the symbol that it was, like right in that moment that I needed it. Another one, which was crazy, was when I was filming a practice video for my channel for YouTube. And I remember I was sitting there and I was like, what am I going to talk about? Like, I just want it to be like something that comes naturally. I don't know what I want it to be, but I'm just going to like sit here and let it come to me naturally. Like, let's see what comes to me. A hawk flies in front of my car. Like a hawk flies right in front of my car. And I look up what a hawk means, and it was about intuition. And that was crazy to me because I was literally sitting there like thinking like I need to get connected to my intuition. I need to like that was exactly the goal. That's exactly what I was doing in that moment. So it was like, it was meaning like divine guidance, or like a higher level of thought and being. And that happened like right in that moment. The last one was crows. I saw crows, and it was like a whole murder of crows, and they flew all in front of me in my car. And I was sitting there just thinking about like how I was hopeful for a new beginning, you know, how I was hopeful for change, and that my life would, you know, begin to be easier, and that things would go in the direction that I've been desiring it to go into. And then of course I see those crows, and I look up what crows mean, and it literally means change, transformation. Like all these symbols that are exactly correlating with what I'm going through in those moments. So pay attention to the animals you see, look up what they mean, and realize that that can be a message from spirit as well. It doesn't just have to be in dreams, it's in real life too. And a lot of ancient like civilizations did practice this. Like they believed that animals symbolize these things. But I'm telling you, it's like anything that is like can be from randomness. Like you randomly see a certain animal that you don't usually see. You randomly see a number that you haven't seen in a while. You randomly see something where it's not random. It's not coincidence. And it is a message. It is a message. I want you to pay attention to your messages, guys. That's huge, huge. This is a message. You're hearing this for a reason. Pay attention, because you'll keep seeing the things, you'll keep seeing the numbers, you'll keep seeing all of that until you pay attention and you look up what it means, or if you miss the message and it doesn't matter anymore. But do your best to pay attention, because I believe that message will always come back until it's heard and understood. Have a good rest of your day, guys. I'll make this before 10, but I'll see you later.